Okay.
Okay, we are recording, so I will mute
Are
and
recording.
turn it over.
Okay. Alrighty. Hi. So, thank you, Baroness Katerina, for inviting me to teach this class. This class tonight is going to be um, regarding the duties of the Kingdom Hospitaller, which is who I am at the moment. I just started this job just in January of 2020, before the Rona hit. So I didn't have a whole lot of time in this job before everything kind of was turned on its side, and the job has kind of morphed into something else. So tonight I'm going to talk about what the job has been up until the coronavirus, and then I'm going to touch a little bit on kind of what it is sort of now with the coronavirus, because they're really kind of two different things at the moment. Okay. Um, and so I'm just going to go over a couple things that I think someone would want to know about this particular job. Um, Talk about some of the requirements. Like, if you want to do this job, here are some of the things that I personally think would be really good for you to know and have some experience with. And then from there, I'll just go over a few little other tidbits. We'll talk about resources that you would probably want to be aware of. And then, of course, if there's any other questions or whatever, just chime in. I don't really like to do the whole, I have this sheet of notes and I'm just going to read it to you. That's not really how I don't like that. I will fall asleep. I'm sorry. Like, I don't find that kind of class engaging at all. So I would rather things be very engaging and very natural. And instead of having like some kind of formal lecture, we'll just have a nice discussion and this is the topic. I think that'll be more fun. So first and foremost, okay, what exactly is specifically the Kingdom Hospitaller? Okay. Um, Everybody, I shouldn't even say everybody. I would say a common phrase here in Onsteora, mundanely Texas and Oklahoma, um, is everybody is a hospitaller. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I hate that phrase because, in my personal opinion, I really feel that that phrase should be modified to be everybody should be hospitable. But there's a fairly small core group of officers who have chosen to take on the duties and responsibilities of the hospitaller. And it's a different thing. And you're asking more of those people. And I feel like it might cheapen it a little bit to just say everybody does that, because they don't. There's some people that are doing this job. It is not an easy job and it has a certain skill set. And I want to give mad props to the people who are doing this job, who have previously done this job, and who want to do this job in the future. All of you are rock stars. You know who you are. Um, so I would rather say everybody should be hospitaller, or excuse me, everyone should be hospitable, but a few people are the hospitaller. And specifically, we're going to talk about the Kingdom Hospitaller actual for Onsteora. So the Kingdom Hospitaller is considered a greater officer of state. You are an officer of the kingdom, meaning that specifically, I think like we fall under like the seneschalate, and to be clear, not like a deputy seneschal for something. Like, this is an actual office, but I have so far found that I've really worked very closely the most with the Kingdom Seneschal. So that's probably who you would work with the closest or the most, would be your as far as fellow like kingdom officers. I think you would work with the Seneschal the most. Okay. Um and and real quick, just to throw this in there, um in some other kingdoms, this particular job is called the chatelaine. Okay, so if you're cruising around the STA and you see, oh, someone has the Kingdom Chatelaine, that's a hospitaler. Same job, different name, depending on what kingdom you're in. Okay, so those two things can usually be meant to be the same exact thing. Okay. Um, and that job has got some pretty specific requirements that you're going to want to be aware of. So first things first, you have to have your membership. You need to be up to date. Not a bad idea if you're going to do this job to just go ahead and jump in when you're going to when you're going to apply, go ahead and get your membership in for 2 years and be done with it. And that way you don't have to mess with it, just to be efficient. What you're going to need to do is you need to attend in some capacity the event called Round Table, or some people like to call it Red Tape. This is an event that happens twice a year, and it is essentially the SCA, well, I shouldn't even say the SCA. I would say Onstjore's business meeting. Okay, so this is where if you're an officer, if you want to be an officer, if you've been an officer and you want to continue to help out your fellow officer people, you're going to want to go to Roundtable. And it's a plain clothes event, and it's every one I've ever gone to, there was no site fee. And you're just going to wear your jeans and a t-shirt or whatever you're wearing. You know, you don't have to dress up. You can if you want, you know, but you don't have to. It's fun, whatever. And this is the event where you are going to basically network, geek out, hang out, have all the fun with the fellow people in your officer group. So like at this last roundtable was virtual, by the way, and it ended up being really successful. I had an officers meeting, a hospitaler Zoom meeting similar to this. And it was all the hospitalers, and we geeked out and we hung out and we had fun and laughed, and it was great. So you need to attend Roundtable. And as the Kingdom Hospitaler, you need to run that meeting. Okay, so just be aware that's going to be something that's going to be expected of you. So if you're not comfortable with that one, it's not a bad idea to reach out and go, how exactly do I do that? There's no shame in it. Ask, hey, I'm not sure how to do it. You're gonna want to, like every month, I need to send a little blurb of kind of like, hey, here's what's going on with the office, and here's some things I want you to know about. You're gonna need to send that to the Kingdom Chronicler, and that's for the newsletter. That's another one that a lot of people, I think, don't realize that's kind of part of the job, but it is something that you're going to want to kind of keep in your mind of, okay, set myself a little reminder, I need to send that out. Okay. And then there's some other little responsibilities that go in there that you're going to need to do. It's going to require some speaking, some public speaking. And honestly, I would strongly recommend that if you're not a people person, you're going to want to maybe educate yourself so you learn how to fake it. Because there's a lot of interactions with people. There's a lot of, not just with your officers who are on your team, but you're essentially the newcomer liaison. You need to be comfortable talking to everybody. Everybody. No matter their age, no matter what language they speak, no matter what the situation is, you're going to be that point of contact. And more importantly, you're going to be the upline for everybody else that does that job, that is that point of contact. So just be aware that, you know, there's a lot going on there. This is by no means a cakewalk officer position, where a lot of people might be like, oh, it's really mellow. You just hang out and talk to newcomers. So no, that's not what it is. There's a lot more that goes on in that. Now, kind of leading from that, I kind of want to get into like why do we need a Kingdom Hospitaler? Like, why do we need this? For myself, I feel like So first and foremost, the Kingdom Hospitaller needs to be like, I don't want to say the bottom line, but kind of like that for your regional officers. You need to be aware of what's going on in your regions, and you need to be kind of up to date, not just with kingdom law, but what's going on society wise, so that you can make sure that you're there for your regionals. You're giving them updated and accurate information, right? If some rules change or some laws change, we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And it's the Kingdom Hospitaler's job to be in the know. So with that regards, you're going to want to be pretty tenacious about that one. Like, don't be shy. Get the info. Because if you're there for your regionals can do their jobs. And their job is to be the support people for all of the baronies and colleges and shires and cantons and all that stuff. The regionals are the ones who are really doing the meat and potatoes of this job. Speaking of the regionals, I do also want to mention, and I did this, so I personally feel like it's a really good thing to have done and for you to do. If you want to do this job, if you want to be the Kingdom Hospitaller, I would strongly recommend that you have been a Hospitaller on all those levels. So if you're in a barony, or if you're in a college, or you're in a shire or a province, or whatever it is that you're in, I would strongly recommend that you be the Hospitaller for at least 2 years. Well, that might be too much. Maybe a year. Let's call it that, right? Because you never know. From there, I would strongly recommend then you be a regional, because you need to know, as the Kingdom Hospitaller, what their jobs are. Like, what are they supposed to do? Because a lot of times, like, for example, and not a lot of people know this one, but did you know that when it is time to put in a new officer, like, I'm just throwing this out there, this is not happening right now, but I'm just throwing it out there. Let's say the Barony of Namron needs a new Hospitaller, right? This person has served there 2 years, they knocked it out, they were awesome, and they are stepping down. Who's the person that puts that new officer in? It's not the Baron and Baroness of Namron. It's not. And it's not the Seneschal either. It's actually the regional Hospitaller that's going to put that new officer in. So it's a really good idea to know, how do you do that? You know, what are the requirements of that? How does that process work? It's a really good idea to know that. And the best way to know it is to do that job. Like, just jump in with both feet and do that job. And it's fantastic. As far as what else do they do aside from that, from being that kind of point of contact, bottom line person, as much as you'd think it would be more of a, like, the barony level and shires and all those guys that end up being the first point of contact, it actually ends up being the Kingdom Hospitaller a lot. And I think, at least for Onstjord, I think that's due to the fact that when people will find our group, when they'll find the SCA, and a lot of times lately it's been happening online, right? They'll go to the main Onstjord webpage. And when you go to, like, the newcomer, like, if you're brand new and it kind of leads you to end up at the Hospitaler's webpage, Kingdom Hospitaller is the first email that's listed. Is it the right way to go about it? Probably not. But that's the way that we got it set up at the moment, right? And usually the Kingdom Hospitaller will be like, oh, it's so great to meet you. Welcome. Like, this is all email, by the way. But you'd be like, you know, welcome, thank you, blah, blah, blah. You know, and a lot of times they'll tell you, hey, I'm new, I'm in San Antonio, or I'm new, you know, I'm up in Norman, Oklahoma, or whatever. You need to know, oh, it's so great to talk to you. Let me direct you to your local group. you know, and definitely give a shout out to their local group. Like, hey, you're going to love Bjornsburg. They're fantastic. You know, this is who your point of contact was. Reach out and let them know that you're interested. And that way they can start learning the people that are in their direct area. Really good idea for you to know who you want to send them to. But a lot of times the Kingdom Hospitaller will end up being that point person for people that are coming in through like online channels, right? So when I think a lot of people go, oh, well, you know, if they're just getting in and they're, you know, they're brand new and they're over in Moonshadow, you'd think that they would talk to someone from Moonshadow first. Well, in a perfect world, that'd be great, but that doesn't always happen. So that's something that you do want to be aware of, is you need to make sure you check in your email and make sure that you have the appropriate information to send newcomers so that they can start interacting and meeting the people in their group, right? Specifically beyond that, not to play it down, but those are the big ones. Like your support team, bottom line, be there for your officers, help newcomers find, you know, find their group, find their people. And like Bonnie just made a comment in the chat section, and she's 100% right. Just because someone reaches out to you doesn't always mean that they're even from this area. Like sometimes they may have found us and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so great to meet you, but you live in Alabama. So let me direct you to who you want to talk to, you know, or like she was saying, the person she chitty chatted with ended up being their their kingdom, their group of people was actually out in Trimaris. So you want to make sure, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. Let me point you to Trimaris so that you can start meeting and you know, learning the people that are in your area. So it really is just making sure you're informed, like staying informed, and staying up to date with who your officers are. Okay. That's a big thing. It sounds like it's such a little thing, like just keep a roster, but it's kind of a big deal, and not everyone can kind of be comfortable with that. So just something to keep in mind. With regards to this job, when you apply for this job, and let's say you're chosen, you get the job, be prepared to be willing and able to give this position at least 2 years. That sounds like a lot, but in SCA years, it's kind of not. Like 2 years goes by pretty quick. I mean, we're already in August. That's crazy to me. You know, like I'm already 8 months into this. Oh my God. But that's something that you really want to make sure, and really not even Kingdom Hospitaller. I would think any officer's position, I think the assumed amount of time would be 2 years. I think, Katerina, you were landed. Were you guys given an idea about, like, were you say like 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, or were you guys just like time frame?
They tell you that they want you to do 3 to 5. So it's somewhere in that time frame. And we did 4. So
excellent. So obviously the landed job is going to be quite a bit different. But be prepared for at least like kingdom positions. Be prepared. 2 years is what would be expected. That's kind of the norm. So be realistic when you're thinking about whether or not you want to do this job. All the stuff we've already talked about. Can you really put in 2 years of your time? And it needs to kind of be like up there focus wise. You need to be willing to put in that time. To do less, I really think is a disservice to your regionals who are depending on you. Because like I said, they're the ones that are doing the real meat and potatoes of this job. You want to make sure you're there for your regionals. And kind of empower them to be able to do their jobs for the baronial level and lower officers. They need to make sure that they're there for them. Trying to think about what other sorts of things you want to kind of keep in your mind when this job is something that you're thinking about doing. Something that's kind of been on my mind, and let me be clear, this next part is strictly my opinion. Like 100%, this is my thoughts on it. Your mileage may vary, and that's totally okay. It really is. Mundanely, my job is I'm in the beauty industry. I'm a hairstylist. And one of the things that is really cornerstone of at least my industry is how you present yourself, right? The image of yourself that you're putting forward is going to determine what other people think of you and how they treat you and like how they respond to you. I know that a lot of people, oh, I'm sorry, there was a question here. Someone was asking me, how many hours a week are we talking about? Realistically, I check my email like at the very, very latest every other day. Realistically saying, I would say I probably put in anywhere from like 2 to 5 hours every week. And it's mostly checking email, checking policy, making sure I'm up to date with everything, and communicating with either my officer corps or with other officers or my upline, which is society, kind of based on whatever irons I have in the fire, I guess you could say. Like if I'm like right now I'm working on something and I'm having to kind of coordinate with a lot of people. So it's probably taking up a little bit more of my time than would normally be. But I would say realistically, somewhere between 2 and 5 a week is about right. It's mostly checking emails and things like that. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I'm a big believer in how you put yourself together and put yourself out there is how people are going to treat you. It should come as no surprise that with this hair, a lot of times people always kind of assume that I might be a little ditzy or I might not know what I'm talking about. It's nothing personal against me. That's just an old school kind of, I don't know what, like a stigma, I guess you could say, where, people always go, oh, blondes have more fun, or blondes, trust me, we all know blonde jokes. Come on. I'm not silly. I'm not stupid. I know. Brunettes are brainy, redheads are feisty. There's always those things. Are they accurate? No. But that's kind of what people think. And right or wrong, that's just how it is. I'm a firm believer that what image we put forward is going to be how people respond to us. So one of the things that I have really been stressing to my regionals is when you are on stage, you're in your Zoom class, or when we're actually meeting and having events, as Katerina can attest, when you're on the throne, because she's been a landed Baroness, or when you are in a position where you are going to be in front of people. I know how people respond to me when I put myself together, image-wise, versus how they treat me when I don't. There's a marked difference. There just is. And I feel like for this particular job, for being a hospitaller, that's something that you need to have in the fore of your mind. So when you are going to talk to newcomers, when you are going to be at the newcomer table and you're the first point of contact, please have yourself together. I mean, we're all adults. I know you all know what that means. But, hygiene's good, hair brushed, face is clean, makeup, your choice. I like to wear it just because it helps me feel put together. But if that's not your jam, just have a nice, clean, fresh face, deodorant. Okay, let's be together. um, and just be ready to put your best foot forward. Okay. Um, I don't really think that's something that we've ever really kind of really gone over or even really stressed. And I really think that's kind of doing a disservice to all of us, right? Because like, I'll be honest with you, until I went to beauty school, I didn't know half the stuff that I know now. So I think it's always we just assume everybody knows that stuff. So I'm of the opinion that if you're going to be a hospitaler, it is completely and totally fine to reach out to your uplines about, I want to put my best foot forward. What's the best way to go about doing that? Because if you want to upgrade your kit, or you want to refine your persona, or you want to, I need to figure out something. I need a hat. I need something, or I don't know what the heck I'm doing with makeup. Can you point me in the right direction? I don't think those are inappropriate. I love that hat. Like, I am here for that hat. I love that hat. Who doesn't love that hat? If you don't love that hat, then I don't even know what to say. But I feel like those are questions that are completely appropriate. Oh, I love that hat too. Is it got a feather on it? I need that hat. Okay, now we're talking. It's got a hawk feather. I love it. So I may or may not have a thing for hats. Anyway, we're getting off topic. But I don't think those questions are inappropriate to ask your upline. I really don't. Like, if you came to me and you were like, hey, I need some help with this, I would be like, let's get together and I'll help you. Right? So that is totally something that is my personal opinion. And I'm just putting it out there, y'all. I'm here for you if you got questions. Before I go into anything else, does anybody have any questions? Anything that's on your mind about this job? Do you want my job? What do you want to know about this job before I go any further? Feel free to unmute. Let me know. Zoom chat of honesty. Just let the questions fly.
You know what? I'll ask one since no one else
Oh,
wants to.
please do. Please do.
I mean, we all here are hospitalers, or at least interested in seeing that aspect of the organization. And for the most part, it's meeting, greeting, and speaking to newcomers, directing them where to go, at least locally, within your local group. And then if you don't know beyond that, you would ask up. But
or like if you're Bonnie, you need to send them to Trimaris, whatever.
Sure.
Whatever they need, whatever it is.
But
like
but
you
on
do.
but on the grand scale of things, when you get to a kingdom level, I mean, what kind of interactions are you having at a kingdom level that you would think are elevated kind of above what you might see on a baronial or local level?
That is a really good question. So I'm going to use an example that happened a while back. I was at Kingdom A&S, and they give you, and if I'd have thought of it, hold on a minute. I'm going to text my husband to see if he'll bring it in for me. So Kingdom officers, apparently my phone is dead. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to plug in. I didn't think it was dead. There we go. So when you become a Kingdom officer, we have these absolutely beautiful, gorgeous collars that were created by Master Ethelston, who sadly is no longer with us. But these absolutely gorgeous collars have the emblem of our office on them. So when I'm wearing it, it's like screamingly obvious of who the officer is. So if you know the heraldry and the emblem of the officer, and they're wearing that, then that's the Kingdom officer. So one of the things that happened to me at Kingdom A&S is I'm wearing my collar. And curiously enough, I didn't really find myself talking to newcomers so much as I did my officers, like the officers in my officer corps, like my regionals, and then the people at the baronial level and so forth. I ended up talking to them more than anything. And a lot of times it was fielding questions of, so, hey, in my group, we're doing this. Can I do that? There was quite a few questions about, we want to do this demo, but we're not sure who to talk to. It's a lot of those kind of questions. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know all the answers. And I think it's totally fine for you to tell your officers, you know what, I do not know about that one. I need to research it. Let me find out. And it's a lot of that. It's a lot of, if you know the answer, great. But if you don't, who to talk to get your answer, where to find it if you need to research it. Almost all of my interactions at an event, when I had my whole Kingdom officer thing on, almost all of it was dealing with my own officers and kind of helping them and guiding them and making sure that they have the resources that they need. That was really the big one for me. Oh, thank you, Bonnie. That's adorable. I just now got your message. Thank you. I'm going to take that compliment. But anyway, oh, there's a question. Where do I work as a hairstylist? So specifically, I'm a men's hairstylist, and my salon that I work at is located in Keller, Texas, and it's called 188 Fine Men's Salon. I'm off Tuesday, Wednesdays. Send your husband over and I'll fix him up. Now I like doing men's hair. It's just a little bit more detail oriented. You got to get it right the first time, and short hair is trickier. I just like the challenge of it. Anyway, did I answer your question? Cool. Yay. Okay. Yeah, I really think that's the big one for this job is, like I said, I mean, most of the newcomer interactions that I have are going to be email mostly, but most of the time, like I'd say 90% of my job is officer support for people on my team. And here's the weird thing. So thank goodness this has not happened to me yet. But if something were to ever come up, and I can't imagine what in the world this would even look like, to be honest with you guys. But if something were to come up where one of my officers ended up having a real problem, I'm the one that's going to have to deal with it. And I need to be aware of how to solve problems, conflict resolution. We just had a class about that in Virtual Academy. That needs to be like that needs to be in the fore of your mind, because you can't just go in there with guns blazing and, well, blah blah blah, and I said this and thing, and get out the finger. Like, no. Conflict resolution is a big one, and you need to know how to do that and to be respectful of everybody. Because I mean, seriously, do you guys even know, like, I'm sorry, I refuse to believe it. I don't think people in the SCA, when something has happened and it's a little off, never does anybody do anything like maliciously. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going out of their way to try to be mean or a jerk or whatever. It's almost always somewhere a miscommunication got jammed, or someone got the wrong idea, or someone heard something and what they heard isn't what that person said. There's a lot of that. And again, I don't think it's malicious on anybody's part. And you need to be able to kind of keep that in mind. Like, when you're a kingdom officer, you are on actual for that job. And you need to remember that everybody that you're dealing with, those are your brothers and sisters. This is your family. This populace is, I'm part of that populace. You know what I'm saying? And we want to make sure that everybody's heard, and the whatever the issue was is solved, and not in a way of, well, so and so just needs to go away. That's never an option you want to encourage, ever, ever, ever. Right? You want to make sure that everyone stays and everyone continues to enjoy this. And when we can get back together and start seeing each other face to face again, we're going to be so glad to see each other. And we want to make sure we don't lose anybody. I hope I stressed that enough. Ever. Anybody else? Any other questions? That was a good one. Ever. Thank you, Bonnie. Ever.
I had a question mainly because I missed the conflict resolution class because I don't even remember why, but I missed it.
I did too. I had to work. I get it. I understand.
What if you've exhausted you've tried talking to the person, you've tried talking to your Sensual, anyone you can think of in your specific group? Would you run it to Kingdom Sensual, or how would that work? What's the protocol if you've gone to any hierarchy you can think of in your group and the person is still being, like, I'm not talking about anyone in particular, I'm just giving a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone's talking to him, but this person is still being...
So
you should go watch
go
the
from there?
conflict resolution videos, because it talks a lot about how to handle that. Yes,
Okay.
your next would be your regional seneschal and then your kingdom seneschal.
Okay.
Because realistically, I mean, you know, the hospitler's office is only going to go so far. We're only going to, I mean, really at the real crux of this, the real meat and potatoes of this job is newcomer liaison. I mean, that's really what this boils down to. That is our main mission statement, if you will. I mean, if you go to SCA.org and you look up the Society Hospitaller, or Chatelaine, which is what she's called, that's literally what it says next to her name, is newcomer liaison. So that is really the crux of who we are and what our job is. If there's something that's causing you an issue where you cannot do that job, obviously you want to make sure that your upline knows what's going on, right? So if you're on the baronial level, or that level, I guess I should say, you want to make sure that your regional knows what's going on. If you want to let me know what's going on, that's great. But as long as the regional's aware of it, that's the most important one. The regional at that point is probably going to come talk to me and go, okay, this is our situation, and this is my plan to address it. The regional is, like I said, I keep coming back to it. The regional is really the one who's doing the meat and potatoes of this job. The regional is going to be the one to address that. And they're going to be like, you know, they're going to go to conflict resolution class. They're going to review that stuff. They're going to make sure that they're up to speed, and they're going to do their very best to get that situation smoothed out. If everything's been exhausted and we still got issues, then at that point, you really do have to kind of go outside of that. And as Katerina said, you know, you're gonna want to involve your seneschal and go, look, this is where we're at. Now, I don't know, we're making up scenarios here, so I don't know what the specifics would be. But I mean, it really, at the end of the day, that's really what it kind of gets down to, is let's try not to let it get to that point. Let's try not to let it go that far. And I think the best way to avoid a lot of that is, let's talk to each other. Like, don't just assume that the other person, oh, well, they've been in the SCA for 10 years. They know. Gang, I hate that. Like, don't just assume that. Like, it's right up there with, okay, and then the event is going to be at that place we've had it at always. When I was a newcomer, And they pulled that where everyone just, at Castleton, where we always are. It's like,
Yeah,
I don't know where that
they
is.
did that to us when we first moved here from Meridia's too, up in Oklahoma City. And I'm like,
Yes!
they're like, oh, it's at Decani. I'm like, what's Decani and where is that?
I don't know
Or,
where that
oh,
is.
it's at Will Rogers. Again,
Still not helping.
don't know where that is. Yeah.
Don't know where that is.
Yeah.
So, and gang, on that note, seriously, that's important. What that one really boils down to is, as the hospitaler, try to keep your jargon to a minimum. Okay. So for example, like in Katarina's comment there, when they were saying, when she moved here from a different kingdom, right? And I'm in the same boat. I moved here from a different kingdom as well. So you already have an idea, like I already had an idea of what the STA was. She already had an idea of what the STA was. And you move into a group and your group is like, oh, we're having that event at Will Rogers. Like we're all supposed to know where that is. Always follow it up with, we're having that at Will Rogers, which, as we all remember, is located at blah, 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 whatever the address is, right? Don't be afraid to if you think you're over clarifying, I promise you you're not. So if you're being like, yes, and you want to talk to our marshal, who is the officer in charge of marshal activities, don't think they just know what that is. I can almost guarantee you they don't. So don't be afraid to overdo it a little bit, especially when you're talking about jargon or verbiage that an SCAer would know and someone else doesn't. In fact, dare I say, even with people that have moved here from other kingdoms, like for example, Katarina, I don't know if they had this in Meridia's. I moved here from a West Coast kingdom. I moved here from Kaid, got here in 2005. And when I got here, there were all kinds of things that happened out there that I assumed happened here that don't. So for example, when you go to a tournament and you got that rope area and the fighters are inside of it fighting and everybody's on the outside watching and clapping and yay and all that, right? What are those ropes called? Just chime in. What's it called? What's it called? Unmute and
Listfield.
the list field. Okay. Did you know that in other kingdoms is not called that? I got here and I'm like, okay, so where are we setting up the Eric? And they were like, what's the Eric? Yeah, because West Coast kingdoms will call it the Eric. Nobody here knew what I was talking about. And I'm like, so where do we set up around the Eric or where do we go? And they're like, what? Yeah, don't be afraid to kind of overdo it when you're dealing with someone who's either brand new or an other games player or even a transplant from somewhere else, because they might have some verbiage that you will be like, I don't even know what that is. Like I got in a lot of trouble because I just assumed a lot of things were the same and people didn't know that I didn't know. And I actually had some people mad at me for a number of years because they were like, why would. So this happened to me. I'm just going to use this as an example. This happened to me. So I first moved here and I'm at this event and court is happening. And this very gorgeous, very well-dressed lady is stepping into court, and they didn't ask her to come in. She just walked in there, and she's fabulous. She's wearing this gorgeous yellow cloak. It's got some flowers on it. I don't know what that is. And she walks up and she just walks into court like she's just like she can just walk in there anytime she wants. And she's got some words to say, and they're lovely words. And she's complimenting this person, and it's lovely and it's fabulous. And I'm confused. I don't know who this woman is. I don't know why she could just walk into court. I don't know what is going on right now. And I asked the person next to me, like, who is that? And who does she think she is that she could just walk into court? Because I didn't know what a lion was. And I didn't know that cloak meant she was a rose, meaning royal family. And she probably was even asked to come in and speak on that person's behalf. I didn't know that. And I found out years later there was someone who was exceptionally angry at me because I had just disrespected this person who was very, very highly regarded and very well loved. I know this lady and she's fabulous. Like, I'm a fan. I'm just going to tell you, it was, oh my God, her name just fell out of my head. Oh my God. Oh my God. Octavia. There it is. Octavia, Countess Octavia. Fabulous. Fabulous lady. Looks fabulous all the time. Gorgeous. Statuesque, the whole queen thing. I didn't know. And this person was mad at me. How dare I disrespect her? I was just asking question because I didn't know. And it wasn't until years later, I'm like, I don't understand why this person doesn't like me. And I found out it was because of that. And I was like, but I didn't know. I did not know. So when you're dealing with newcomers and with transplants, just don't be afraid to overdo it on the explanations, because that's really how faux pas and miscommunications happen. And obviously we want to avoid that. One thing, because I know we're kind of getting close to the end of our time frame here, I do want to kind of point out just some resources real quick, just because everybody in here is a hospitaler. I recognize you from roundtable class. One of the good ones that you guys want to be aware of, if you don't already, and I'm sure you guys know this stuff, but I'm going to throw it out there mostly for the recording in case anyone's tuning in. First stop should always be SCA.org. And there's actually a little thing that you can click on, and it's called New to the SCA. There are a bunch of articles there. Thank you. Yes, this card right there. Thank you so much. Go to that website. There's a spot that says New to the SCA ? Click on it. There are a ton of resources. You find out who your officer is, who the officers in your kingdom is, a bunch of stuff from how to go to your first event, what you should pack, how to make your clothes. What is that person with the pointy thing on their head? Is that the king? We don't know. This will point it out to you. There are a bunch of groups here on, well, not here, we're on Zoom, but I mean on Facebook. One of my absolute favorites is a group called the Honorable Clover. I absolutely love Honorable Clover. They have got a lot, and in Clover, CLOV is in victory, ER. Check out Honorable Clover. They have, I mean, they post classes, they post lectures, they've got tutorials. The folks running it, and they're not on Stewart, and they're from a different group, so just be aware some of the verbiage may be a little different than what you're used to. But I feel like that stuff really translates across kingdom lines, and they have done such a great job of putting resources together for your newcomers. Don't be shy about sending them over to Honorable Clover. I'm a member. I love them. They're awesome. There's also a lot of really good YouTubers that are out there. I routinely put down stuff from a, she's a lady originally, I think she still lives there. She's from Ontario, which is Oregon, Washington, Canada, some of the regions of Canada up there, British Columbia. And her name is Morgan Donner. She's a mistress of the Laurel. I'm a huge Morgan Donner fan. I love her. And she does a lot of costuming that's outside the SCA, but her SCA stuff is fabulous. And she has a group of videos that are titled Ask the Baroness. And it is a really cute, it's super fun, it's very well edited, and it's a lot of fun. And they do all kinds of cute, like, you know, Curious in Callantyre writes, you know, blah, 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 blah. And all of these fun, really cute little blurbs that as a newcomer, you would want to know. Like, I'm a squire. What does that mean for me in the order of precedence? And then she goes into order of precedence and what that means and what's in there and why. Anyway, and so there's all kinds of neat little videos in there, but Morgan Donner is one of my favorites. I reference her all the time. And then, of course, there's also some groups in the SCA, and specifically in Onstiora-centric, that are groups that you're going to want to get involved with. Obviously, I have a soft spot in my heart for Elfsea Academy because I made it, because I invented it. But from that group, kind of a lot of other groups created academies. I know Brengwalad's got one. Namron's got a great one. Brengwalad's is pretty awesome too. I got to be honest with you. They're kind of killing it. And a lot of those groups they're specifically putting out. Steps has an academy that's fabulous. And it's basically classes from members in that area. So you're going to meet people in your own group when you go to that academy. And they're fantastic resources. And I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of the VASME, or what are we, Katerina, what are we calling it? VASME, the Virtual Academy of Service-Minded Individuals. This thing that we're on right now.
I just call it the Virtual Academy.
Okay. So obviously I'm a fan of Virtual Academy. And guys, if you're new, if this is your first time coming to Virtual Academy, or this is your first time seeing the recordings, Virtual Academy is fabulous. And I have to tell you, it says it's for service-minded individuals, but there are classes on here that benefit everybody, no matter what your interest level is. And what I'm loving about it is that it does not assume anything, and it will break it down even for things that you didn't even know we needed a class for. Like, there's actually a class on, I want to apply to be an officer. Here's how to fill out the officer form. There's a class on that. Like, how cool is that? You didn't even know you needed that information, but you do. So you should take that class. I'm loving it that it doesn't assume anything, and it will break it down, because there's been so many times where I've been like, I feel like I should have known that. But now you don't have to stress that one, because there is a class for all of us who wanted to know that information and were too shy or whatever to ask. I mean, all of those are fantastic resources. And I mean, some of the best ones are in this kingdom, put on by your fellow Onstiorans. And I mean, if that's just not the coolest thing ever, then I just don't even know. And I think we're at the end of our time. I'm shocked. I talked a long time. I can't, I need to drink something. It's coffee, in case anyone wants to know. I don't drink alcohol. Not my jam. Not my jam. I appreciate it. I'm not a fan. Does anybody have any questions to wrap it up before we call it good? Did we cover everything? Katerina, did we cover everything? I think we got everything.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So just in case if I didn't cover something and you want to reach out to me personally, you can find me on Facebook. My SCA persona and my normal SCA thing, my regular life is all on one account, and my name is Michelle Hayes, MICHELE HAYS. You can find me. It's actually a picture of me. Like, I look like this. You can find it. And you can always reach out to me, send me a little message if you want to. That's really how we're finding each other right now. If you want to send me an email, you can. You can go to the Kingdom Hospitaller account and just click on it. And when you send it an email, it'll come into my email box and I will answer you. And I think that's it. You guys, thank you so much for coming into this class and expressing interest. And, if you want my job, I just told you how to do it. I told you how to get it. Year and a half, I'll be out. You'll need to come in and take my place. and keep doing this awesome hospitaling thing that we love.
I have a question before you go. I missed part of it because my signal dropped, and then when I got back in, I couldn't hear you for a good 5 minutes. So since this is recording, will this be up on YouTube or something?
It will be posted in the event where you got the information to join tonight. I'm also putting together a list of all the class recordings and where they are, because some people have asked for that. So I may get that posted tonight, I may not. But the video from the class probably won't be posted until tomorrow, just because it takes it a while to render. So it's better for me to let it render overnight, and then tomorrow I can download it in like a minute versus 45. So
You've been really good
Oh,
about that. You've had that stuff up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. No worries. I was just thinking maybe a week from now, maybe I might go back and watch it if it's on YouTube, and maybe see if I could get what I missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it should be posted tomorrow.
Eventually, like maybe a few years from now, I would maybe like to be a local Spidler, wave surfing, that thing. But I'm not insurance coming into the society from a long essence. So.
What I would recommend, if I understood you correctly, because you were breaking up a little bit there, but if I think what you were asking is that you were thinking about at some point maybe jumping in and being a local hospitaler, so at your baronial level or your shire or what have you. And I say vivat to that. I think if you want to jump in, absolutely. Step one would be to go ahead and reach out and see who the current hospitaler of your group is, wherever your group is. So let's say you're in, I don't know, let's pick one. Let's say Sea Winds. I'm just throwing it out there. You would want to go ahead and find out who the hospitaler in Sea Winds is and let that person know, there she is, let her know, hey, I think I might want to get in on this hospitaling thing. Can I be your deputy? And so what she'll do is she'll talk with you, kind of let you know a little bit about the job, and she'll go through the process of getting you an application and everything to be her deputy. Once you've been a deputy for a while, when she's getting ready to step down from her position after she's done it for her 2 years, at that point, she's going to look at who her deputies are and go, who's ready to take on this position? And if it's you, great, you can start that process. The person who's going to install that person as the hospitaler will be your regional. So for Sea Winds, that's going to be your Southern Regional Hospitaler. That person, you're going to want to know who that person is. Okay, currently on Facebook, you can find her. Her name is Mariana Garcia. She's fabulous. She actually has a Southern Hospitalers group, and she's really active on it and keeps in good communication with everybody. But you're going to want to learn about that, learn who she is, learn who your fellow hospitalers are, and start learning about that job. So that's going to be your first step, is talk to your local hospitaler, ask to be their deputy, and start learning what the job is, because you don't want to apply, get that job, and then realize my job doesn't let me do this, or my family situation doesn't let me do this, or what if you have an attack of life and something happens, you want to make sure that you can do that job. So it's a good idea to do the deputy thing and make sure you know what you're getting into.
That's great advice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
By the way, I really love your look.
Oh, thank you. I'm a Marilyn fan, in case you haven't noticed. She's my favorite.
I have a chin length platinum bob.
Nice.
Yeah, I used to be a hairstylist too.
All right, Katerina, what do you think? Did we cover everything? We're slightly over time. Do we want to wrap it up? Do we want to?
Sure, I think we're good. Yeah, as long as nobody has any other pressing questions.
Do we have any other questions? I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
So
if you're not sure,
if
you're not sure, reach out to your regional or your local hospitaler if you have anything else.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for teaching. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.